Welcome to another episode of 720X Mods and Performance. I'm Scott, and this is my 2020 McLaren 720S Spider. Today we're going to be doing a full oil change, and then we will follow that up by resetting the service indicator light through the MDS, and we will use a DiagCode tool to do that. Let's get this thing up in the air and torn apart. We're going to be using Mobil 1, the European car formula, 0W40. We have the Moly filter, the 254. We're using the D3. I believe the difference in the D levels, D1, 3, 4, are the different components that come with it. In this case, it's got a couple crush washers, but we're only interested for the McLaren, the outer and the little inner rubber seals that come with it, which seem to be pretty standard. You can ignore the crush washers that come, but you'll need to get a kit of the actual crush washer in the correct sizes. We do have that available at 720xmodsperformance.com. So on the Spider, we do have the back panels already off. So this is the passenger side if you're on the US, so the right side car panel where your oil filler is back here. You'll want to pop that off first. A lot of people just yank these up. They're just clips that will release. I like to use a rather long flathead screwdriver for these. And if you look on the back side, we can see how they're actually mounted here. So you've got a total of only 2 clips, and these will be on the outside edges of the car. So if you look at the clip here, it's just a kind of an expansion spring that clips in. There's one there, there's one here. And let me look closely with this. If you see this area right in there, I'll take a screwdriver and I will actually pinch between this plastic part and the vehicle. There's a metal tab, but you can slide, if you have a flashlight, you stick your head in the trunk opening once you raise the convertible top. I like to stick a screwdriver in there, slightly twist it, and it gently pops it out. That way I'm not risking any damage to the clips or the plastic or anything breaking. And it's been a very, very easy way to get it out of there. The front one's very accessible. You're looking for that long flat head for the rearmost clip, but there's the 2 clips, and then on the side that connects to the carbon fiber vent, they'll just slide out of that. I've already removed the carbon fiber cover. You've got a total of 4 Torx fittings. It's a T25. Normally these have a retainer and they stay connected to the piece. I have these out. We're going to be doing a bit of polishing, but there's 2 in the rear. And then there's 2 when you lift that convertible top. There's going to be 2 in the compartment. And you do about a half turn on these and it will loosen. And then you can carefully pull this straight out.
In the Spider, you can take your screwdriver and slide it into this area and just twist it. You can actually see here where that tab is touching down and pressing into the groove. So slide the screwdriver under there and twist it, and that will pop it right out. Then for the rearmost, this is where the long screwdriver helps, and a flashlight. Slide it all the way back and repeat the same. Go into that plastic clip between the plastic and the metal and twist it, and it'll pop right out.
Once you get those covers off, the center carbon came off here. The 2 spots that you were unscrewing were here and here. The other 2, I'll have to lift the top back up so you can see them. They're actually in the inside carpeted area. And then you can see over here on the US passenger side, you've got your oil fill point. So we're gonna get the car warmed up. It's been sitting a while, get the oil up to operating temperature. Then we're going to vent the filler as well as open up the oil filter to let that oil escape out of there more easily. We've also got to remove this 720 access plate to get access to the filter. So there's 4, I believe, T25 screws down there as well to take out. There are about 21, 23 10 millimeter hex head bolts to remove. And keep in mind that these are not all the same length, so you'll want to keep an eye on that. These outside edge front ones, there's two of them on each side. They've actually got a fairly deep head on them, so keep track of those. And then the front ones here, for example, I actually went ahead and labeled it so I wouldn't forget. These are actually the short bolts on the very frontmost part of the tray. So if we look around, we've got an assortment of those. So I'm going to go ahead and get those loosened up. So here I laid out the bolts kind of in order as they came off the car, with this being the front. You can see that the front bolts are a little bit shorter than the majority of the rears in the middle. So just keep in mind the front ones are the short ones. There's a complete row of them right in the front lip. And then the two on each side, these are actually more of what, an M8, I believe. But they're a little bit bigger bolt than the rest of them, so you can't really mess those up. They do have a bigger head, but they're all 10 millimeter, and then all the rest of them are the same length. So you've got a little bit bigger bolts here, and 5 of the short ones in the very front. All the rest are the same. Be sure to inspect the bottom of the under tray for any leaks or anything. This was all previously there. Nothing new from this service interval. These are going to be your drain holes. Typically, we just replace the one. You can see it actually has the copper crush washer in there on the engine pan. And then we'll be replacing the O-ring on the oil lines. This is the rear driver's side line. And there's also one here, zoom out a little bit, on the passenger side as well. These are both on the rearmost. We're going to pull those lines. So we're going to have those two lines, the oil drain, and then over here, a little bit further forward, we have the oil reservoir sump that we're going to be draining and installing a new crush washer with. But just be sure to check for oil leaks. This car only sees 1,000 or 2,000 miles a year. Typically, you might notice a few drips of oil on the top of some of these bolt heads, which I'm told is normal. Luckily, this time around, I cleaned it up last year, and it looks like this year I'm not really noticing any residue. So that's great news. Nothing's coming out. They did say to check the torque on a lot of your water pump assembly bolts, which I did last time, so I'll double check those. I think there was a couple of them that are a little bit loose. So to gain access to the oil filter, we've got this cover here, a T25 bit. And you're going to have 4 bolts in here to remove. So let's get those 4 out of there. And we can lift that up. I like to wrap the filter with some paper towels just in case, make sure everything stays clean, and then use a 36 millimeter socket. An angled wrench is always helpful here. And then break that thing loose. So now it's just cracked about a turn or so to get an air seal in there. Unsealed, I should say. And your cap is off as well. So now we'll lift it up and start the draining. So we're going to break this loose. This is a T50. I'm letting that one drain for about 20 minutes or however long till they're all completely out of there. So this is a little tough to reach. I've got an 8mm socket, a little universal joint and an extension. We're going to go ahead and try to feed that up in there and hit that one. Take the oil cooler line loose. And we'll just see if that'll wiggle loose. Generally they will. There's also a little tab you can pull on a little bit with a screwdriver. Don't damage that seal area, but this is up right by the screw where I'm pulling it. Oops. Gonna give it some pressure and hold it here to keep it from spilling everywhere. Flow will go down pretty quick. And we've got 2 of the oil cooler lines, 1 on each side to do. And we'll let both of those oil cooler lines just drip for a bit. There's the oil pan and the other oil cooler line. They say to give it 15 minutes. The longer the better. Just make sure there's nothing left coming out. Now you want to remove the rubber O-rings. I suggest using a pick, or I have here a very small screwdriver, being extremely careful not to scratch the surface. That old O-ring here, we're gonna take those out, get them replaced. These are known to leak from time to time if they're not replaced, so go ahead and get those replaced. These are some quality Viton ones. I always like to add a little bit of oil to them so they'll slide right on there and into position. So you can just steal a little oil from that drip. Get these installed. Now these 8mm bolts heads take about 10 Newton meters, but as small of an area as it is up here, I usually like to just tighten those on, finger tight or without a torque wrench. Usually have a little bit more control over it, so I'm just going to slide this back in, make sure it's seated before you push it in. Snaps right in. Same thing on the driver's side. Make sure it's lined up before you fully engage it. And it pops in. Start these finger tight, make sure they're in. Now that we've let this fully drain, we're going to replace the aluminum crush washer. Wipe this up and get this torqued to 18 Newton meters. So we're going to take out that oil filter the rest of the way. So we've got our new gaskets, 2 of them, and the filter. So first off, we will clean off this old oil cover. So we've got the 2 rubber seals. We've got the one right here and the larger one here. We will use, again in this case, just a little screwdriver to gently pry that out of there. I'm using some of that oil just to pre-lube the new seal as we stretch this one into place, making sure it goes into its groove. And I'll oil up the new replacement one of these as well for the end. And I'll leave some oil on that, help that slide into place. We'll take the new oil filter and slide it in there. Just like that. Then we'll take the filter and stick that into the car. So we'll tighten that, and then we'll torque it to 24 Newton meters. It does take a little bit of an angle, so I put a universal joint on the end to get that angle, and that's torqued down. There is a specific fill procedure on the car, so grab your funnel, and you want to actually fill this very slowly. You don't want to get any air into the system, so don't just fill this up and let it chug. You want to go slowly, let that oil just flow in and let the air out at the same time. Otherwise, you can create air pockets. And the procedure is 5 liters of oil, fill it, and then we're going to let it run or idle under 2,000 RPM for about 30 seconds. Be sure the cap goes on and snaps with the arrows facing forward. We're going to start and let the car run for about 30 seconds. This will let the oil circulate, fill up the sump, and then we'll add another 1.5 liters. So after waiting a few minutes, we're going to add that extra 1.5 liters, which I poured exactly in 1.5 liters into the 5-liter container here. I guess it's actually a quart. To get to the engine oil test, you can press down on the stalk until you get to messages, and then pull it towards you and go down to oil. Select that, and it'll say apply throttle. I have to have the brake on as well. Now we're waiting for the temperature to reach 194 degrees, so we've got a bit to wait. So the first fill with almost 6.5 liters said it was low, so I've added another 3/4 of a liter. We'll see how much that raised the level. So it still says too low.
I did about 5 fills and checked each time, added about 7.5 liters before we got into the OK green bar. So once this was done, the last step is to reset the service indicator. So we're going to use DiagCode, and on Windows, I'm going to right-click on the startup icon and select Run as Administrator. Let the license key confirm the license, and then go to your make and model, 720S.
Make sure that your ignition was on at the beginning of this procedure, and preferably have a charger hooked up to make sure you have sufficient voltage. For the resets, we're going to go to the Advanced Driver Interface, ADI here, right at the top, and just click on that one. This will load up. If you have any trouble codes, you can read the diagnostic trouble codes here. This is just a display timeout. Been doing a lot of work on the car. You can clear it if you'd like. And what if we reread that? That one should be gone. So to reset the oil light, you'll go to the guided functions. And to reset it, we'll go into the service indicator reset menu. However, let's first look at read last service data. We'll click into there. This will show us the last time this procedure was executed. So note the preconditions. It does want the ignition on and a battery charger hooked up. And then we'll click on read, and this will show us last July was the last time the service was done. So we could write on this screen, but we're not going to. We're going to go back out and go to the service indicator resets screen. And this is basically going to say it's been serviced and reset it to today's date. So we do have a charger hooked up. The ignition is on. Click the reset button. Operation successful. Now if we close this out, we can go back here and read the last service data, and we should see that this has been refreshed to today's date. And we'll hit read again. And now you can see it's March 26th of 26, and it has successfully been reset. That's all there is to it. Close out of these windows. And you can see in here on the home screen now what all of the different modules are. You can scan all the units and get any trouble codes across all the units here in one spot. You can bolt clear them as well from here, or whichever you'd like. We'll go into some of this in a future video. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. If this helped you out, be sure to give us a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. If you've got any comments, questions, or experience you'd like to share, drop it down below. I try to get through as many comments as possible. Or if you're just into McLaren performance, maintenance, upgrades, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. Otherwise, if you'd like to see any of the parts or tools used in this oil change video, be sure to check out 720xmodsperformance.com. The link is in the description below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.